You're at home, wide awake, with nothing on TV to hold your attention. You fire up your laptop, activate your VPN, and launch Tor to explore the hidden wiki. In this video, we're diving into 3 real-life stories from the dark web that were sent to us, offering you a chilling glimpse into the darkness that's just a few clicks away. If you enjoy these stories, please like and subscribe for more. I've always been drawn to the darker corners of the internet. It's not that I had anything better to do, honestly. Being a broke 21-year-old student with too much time on my hands, poking around the dark web just felt like some forbidden thrill. The deeper you go, the more layers you peel back, the weirder it gets. I'd been messing around in those places for years, until a few nights ago. It all started with this cryptic post on a forum I frequented. Some random user dropped a weird message. Curious about life's true value? There was a link, no explanation, no context. Now, I know I should have just ignored it, right? But man, my curiosity is like a damn itch I can't scratch, so of course I clicked it. What's the worst that could happen? The link took me way deeper into the dark web than I'd ever been, like layers of encryption and anonymity protocols deep. But I kept going. The page finally loaded, and there it was. A black screen with a single line of text, the auction. Below it was a live chat. Usernames popped in and out, stuff like user H647 and user B648. And of course, there was mine, user T751. I just watched for a bit, not really understanding what was going on. Some of the users seemed to know each other, throwing casual lines like, "How'd it go last week?" and getting replies like, "Best so far." I thought, okay, friendly folks, probably another weird underground marketplace. The chat kept scrolling, and things got weird. One user asked, "Who do you think is next?" And someone replied, "Hope they got good ones this time. Last time the one I got didn't last that long." I was like, wait, what are you guys talking about? But I didn't type anything. I was just reading. I was new in this place. Then it got weirder. Some dude posted, "Did you see the new ones? Bet he'll scream like a pig." Screaming like a pig? What the hell? That's when it clicked. They weren't talking about stuff. They were talking about people. But were they bidding on human lives? Is that what the auction is about? I could feel my heart start pounding, a cold sweat creeping down my back. I'd heard rumors about this sort of thing, but I never thought it was real. I thought they are just urban legends, you know, like the ones they tell to children, but for grown-ups. But this wasn't some fantasy or urban legend. I was in the chat, and this was business, cold, organized business. I thought about bailing. My finger hovered over the X in the corner of the screen. Just close it. Pretend I never saw any of this. But before I could, the bidding started. A new name popped up, user T 439. I realized, holy crap, that's a person. They actually started bidding. The chat blew up with bids, people just throwing out numbers like they were buying a car or something. It was so casual, so disgusting. My heart felt like it was going to burst. What happens to these people when the bidding ends? What did these sickos even do with them? I should have left. I know that. I should have slammed my laptop shut and gone to bed, but I couldn't. But then something happened, something that made me wish I had left. I was just sitting there, trying to make sense of the nightmare in front of me, when a new message popped up in red, bold letters. The bid for user T751 starts now. I stared at the screen, feeling my stomach drop. My username. What the hell? Before I could even process what was happening, a bid came in. $2,000, then $4,000. I froze. My hands went numb. I stared at the numbers, watching as the bids climbed higher and higher. This couldn't be real. It couldn't. But there it was, right in front of me. They were bidding on me. Panic hit me like a truck. I scrambled to exit the chat, but my mouse wouldn't move. The X at the corner of the screen was unclickable. I tried slamming the power button on my laptop, but nothing happened. The chat was going wild. Messages zipped by so fast I couldn't even keep up, but I caught glimpses of them. This one's better be worth it. Hope he likes heat. Been waiting to have someone around to play with. I was like, what is going on? My blood went cold. I wasn't just some observer anymore. I was on their menu. I tried everything, mashing the keyboard, yanking the power cord out. Nothing worked. The flipping battery kept it running. Even closed my screen, but it didn't shut down. All I could do was sit there, helpless, watching as I was being auctioned off in front of my eyes. The countdown timer popped up on the screen. 30 seconds left. 20. 10. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might explode. The screen froze for a second. Then the chat went dead silent. I stared at the screen, barely breathing, waiting for something to happen, for some explanation. Anything. Then a new message appeared. User T751 has been sold. I sat there staring at the words. Sold. I'd been sold. But to who? Why? What the hell was going to happen to me? Before I could even wrap my head around it, another message appeared, making me feel even sicker. Your new owner will collect you shortly. And just like that, my laptop shut off. The screen went black. The whole thing powered down on its own. I was left sitting in the dark, the silence pressing in on me. My mind was racing. What the hell did that mean? Who had bought me? What were they going to do to me? I grabbed my phone, hands shaking, ready to call someone. Anyone. But before I could even dial a number, my phone buzzed. A new text message popped up on the screen. We'll be in touch soon. There was no number, no name, just the message. I dropped the phone, feeling like the walls were closing in on me. I rushed to the window, pulling the blinds down, scanning the street for anyone suspicious. But it was empty. Still, that feeling wouldn't leave. The feeling of being watched. It's been days. I haven't heard anything since. I think it was just some prank they pull on the newcomers. At least, I hope it was. Being a broke college student is hard. I mean, whoever's been a student knows the struggle. Student loans piling, breakfast for dinners. Last time I had a hot meal was on Thanksgiving at my mom's place. Anyway, I was studying medicine, and every dollar I had went toward tuition and rent. So when I stumbled across a dark web forum with supposedly free medical research materials, I thought my luck had finally changed. It started innocently enough. I was knee-deep in my dissertation, trying to piece together research on experimental treatments. I'd been struggling with the costs of academic materials, so when a friend mentioned this dark web forum, where you could find all kinds of medical papers for free, I was a bit skeptical. My friend warned me that it was shady, but hey, nothing beats free, right? It was a typical dark web setup, minimal design, lots of text links. The forum had various sections, new studies, experimental data, and something labeled exclusive materials. I clicked on the exclusive materials section and was greeted with a list of downloadable files, each more enticing than the last. I was overjoyed. There were detailed reports, data sets, and even some experimental results. Everything was laid out in a way that made it look like a treasure trove of research. I downloaded a bunch of files and started sifting through them. The data was incredibly detailed. Blood samples, patient responses, experimental protocols, everything I needed to support my dissertation on experimental treatments. I spent hours analyzing these documents, integrating them into my own work. It felt like a stroke of luck. These materials were helping me complete my dissertation without spending a dime. Weeks went by, and I was on a roll. My dissertation was shaping up to be something special. I kept going back to the forum, downloading new materials as they became available. The more I used these files, the more I noticed something strange. The reports often included cryptic notes in the margins, or odd comments about subjects and cases. I brushed it off as standard research jargon, but something about it nagged at the back of my mind. One night, I was working late, reviewing a particularly grim dataset that detailed experimental results. There was a comment that caught my eye. I thought it was odd, but dismissed it. Maybe it was just a standard way of documenting issues. A few days later, I was browsing the forum again when I came across a thread titled Unfortunate Endings. The thread was a mix of user posts, but one comment stood out. Such a shame that the subjects didn't last longer. The data was so promising. I clicked on it, curious. The post mentioned various experiments and a troubling note about the high turnover rate of subjects. I skimmed through it, feeling uneasy. My discomfort turned into dread when I stumbled upon a file named Subject Overview. One of the folder was Final Report on 48FL. The document was filled with grim details, medical data, photographs, and something that made my blood run cold. Photos of what appeared to be a patient in various stages of distress, restrained, and in serious medical condition. Then another file named Subject 19IL. The photos in that file were pretty grim. It was a man bind on a medical bed. There was a person next to him with a syringe. The only thing I could focus on was the man's face. The face of absolute terror. I kept looking in the files, and the more I looked, the more it made sense. This was not just experimental data. It was not just theoretical. This was actual experiments on people. I dug deeper, and the more I found, the more horrifying it became. There were records of people being experimented on, sick individuals subjected to various treatments. The files described procedures and results in clinical detail, but they also included disturbing comments about the subject's suffering. But who were they? I felt sick. I was sick. How could I have been so naive? I had been using research data that came from kidnapped victims, their suffering recorded and analyzed as if they were just lab rats. I had to stop, but what could I do? I felt trapped, knowing that my dissertation was built on such a disturbing foundation. I had unknowingly been a part of something so dark, so vile. Every time I looked at my dissertation, I saw not just a piece of academic work, but a reminder of the suffering of real people. I wanted to come clean, to tell someone. But who would believe me? Who would understand that I was just a broke student trying to make ends meet? Even now, I can't shake the feeling of being part of something so monstrous. The darkness of that forum, the faces of those people in the photos, it haunts me. I defended my dissertation and graduated years ago. I've paid off my student debts and enjoy warm meals every day. But will I ever repay the debt I owe to those innocent people? I was a 24-year-old with a bad habit of trying to take shortcuts, especially when it came to getting what I wanted. At the time, I was stressed out and needed a break. A weekend away from everything. So I figured I'd find someone selling some weed on the dark web. My plan was to scam them with a lowball offer, thinking no one would bother over such a small amount. You know, which dealer would go to the police over being scammed with $50, right? So my plan was to send them the money, get the stuff I wanted, and then tell them to refund me, or I would report them to the authorities. If only I knew how stupid I was back then. I found a seller with what seemed like a decent offer. The seller didn't have many reviews, but the ones that were there seemed all right. I thought, why not? It's a cheap gamble. So I sent a message offering $50 just to see if they'd bite. I wasn't expecting much. Maybe a rude reply or no response at all. Instead, I got a message back almost immediately. The seller gave me his wallet account. I sent the $50 worth of bitcoins, and then I got a message. Here's your link, it said, with a URL attached. So I clicked the link, got a location which I entered in Google Maps, went there, and got my stuff. Everything seemed fine. If only I had left it there and moved on. But no, I decided to go home and send the seller a message asking for my money back, or I would get his little operation busted by tipping off the police. It didn't take long for a reply. He sent me another message. The message contained a link and was signed at the end with CJNG. I clicked the link without thinking too much about it. I expected to see some sort of confirmation that my $50 was on its way back to me. But what I saw instead made my blood run cold. The page loaded slowly, revealing a series of videos and images. It was a page dedicated to showing people in various stages of torture. The scenes were graphic, unsettling, and surreal. There were people with chainsaws, people holding small gas canisters. Then, there were pictures of the aftermath. While my brain was trying to process what was going on, I felt the urge to throw up. I felt like I'd stumbled into a nightmare. I quickly closed the page, my hands trembling. The whole thing felt like a sick joke. But deep down, I knew this was more serious than just some messed up prank. I had to find out what I had just gotten myself into. I started researching the CJNG, the name I saw in the signature of his last message, and the Jalisco New Generation cartel kept popping up. The more I dug, the more I realized that I hadn't just pissed off any ordinary seller. I had crossed paths with one of the most dangerous criminal organizations in the world. But as I kept reading about their brutality, I realized it wasn't just about the money. They were about sending a clear message: don't mess with us. They used the dark web not just for transactions, but as a means to assert their dominance and intimidate. My measly $50 wasn't a drop in the bucket for them. It was a personal affront, a small challenge to their authority. By trying to scam them, I had sent a signal that I was trying to undermine their operations, even if unintentionally. I felt sick to my stomach. The money I thought was insignificant had sparked a dangerous chain of events. I kept telling myself this couldn't be real, that the guy was just messing with me. But then, a few days later, my phone buzzed with a message saying, "We found your number." I considered contacting the authorities, but the fear of drawing more attention to myself kept me silent. I couldn't risk escalating the situation further. Instead, I took every precaution to disappear from their radar. I changed my online accounts, secured my devices, and even moved to a new place. It was a stressful time, and the constant paranoia was exhausting. I hoped that by disappearing and ceasing all contact, I had managed to evade their attention. It's been a while since then, but every time I hear about cartels or organized crime, my stomach churns. I've learned my lesson the hard way. The dark web isn't a place to play games, especially not with people who have the power and intent to make good on their threats. I'll never forget the images I saw, or the terrifying realization of who I had angered. It's a reminder of how close I came to a very grim fate, and how some shortcuts are better left unexplored. For those of you who've never been on the dark web, let me give you 2 pieces of advice. 1, stay away from it. And 2, if you don't, at least don't mess with the people there. We hope these 3 dark web stories gave you a good scare. Have you ever experienced something like this? We want to hear your stories. Drop them in the comments or send them to us directly. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Your support helps us bring more of these real stories to life.